So our problem, the problem we worked on, was no clear career trajectory or progression for postdocs. And we discussed our whys were the first why, mentorship. And as a disclaimer for these conclusions, these are generalizations. There are amazing mentors out there. But the first reason we found was mentorship. Then why? Because there's no clear outline from the beginning of a postdoc position. What are the outcomes? Where does the postdoc want to go? How will the postdoc achieve them? Why? Because there's no standardized system for measure of success and for mentorship. Why? Because postdocs depend on the job, and there's no interest from many senior researchers to lose postdocs and to have them compete for money, perhaps. And why? Because maybe there's sort of a conflict of interest with the PI, so if the postdoc works in their own grants, maybe they will have less time for the PI grants. And our underlying clause was not enough jobs and funding. And our proposed solutions are mentorship training, accountability, both by institutions and funders, regulations and policies, rewarding good mentorship, and incentives for career progression for postdocs. And who would be involved, institutions and funders?
Fantastic. Poor work-life balance as the problem, and we decided that really the underlying causes are ourselves, like typical PhD students, and our the competition. So kind of not wanting to say no, and when things come up, especially with deadlines, so it kind of gets out of hand. The underlying cause, but I'm mumbling, but. Yeah, the main thing was competition. In the research environment.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that competition comes from you want to stay in research, and if you are not good enough, then you cannot stay in research because, only a few people can stay in research and actually continue in research. As then we come to the well-known problem, I think that there's not enough funding. So I think a solution to the problem, one of the solutions is have more funding for research. But other solutions also might be training students to say no more often, like have more self-management courses available for students, but also promoted for students. And also for the supervising team, actually, there could be courses like, how do I recognize if my students has these problems? And how can I help them within? So that they don't put too much pressure on their students to say yes all the time to everything that they're proposing.
Fantastic.
So one of the problems that we identified is that there's not enough resources for underrepresented populations. One of the causes we found is that there's a bias against non-native English speakers among grant reviewers and the grant sponsors. So we found some potential solutions. For one, we could provide free resources to the non-native speakers to kind of improve their language skills. And we can also encourage grant reviewers to be more objective and to make sure that process is more transparent. And of course, who would be involved would be grant reviewers, and the sponsors would need to be involved to make sure that happens.
So our group focused on short-term contracts because I think that's something that almost every researcher is concerned about. And the root solution that we came up to is that science takes a long time and there's not always a direct benefit to society and no direct economic benefit. So we believe that it's important to really promote the relevance of research and raise awareness about the practical relevance to society. And to do so, one could increase dissemination to stakeholders, to governments, but also to the general public. And we believe that it's something that should be the task of researchers and early career researchers to get in contact with people outside of the research bubble.
Hi, so the problem which we are discussing today is grant application processes are too long. The possible causes behind it is first, because it demands a strong hypothesis and a good structure to reach result. Second, because we need to find a good collaborator and sometimes a PI to engage the idea. Third problem, because there are low number of grants to junior researchers. Fourth, because usually the junior researchers are not well trained to write the grant properly. And the potential solution to these problems may be because why it demands a strong hypothesis and a good structure is because we need good quality data and research. The second question was because we need to find good collaborator and sometimes a PI to engage the idea. The potential solution for that is because it provides better resources and expertise to address the question or the problem. The third question was the lower number of grants to junior researchers. So the potential solution may be once the junior researchers are well trained, maybe agencies will increase the number of fundings. The last problem was it's usually junior researchers are not well trained to write the grants properly. So the potential solution might be all PI need to have policies to train your postdoc fellows appropriately for writing grant applications. So who would we need to be involved as PIs, of course, universities, administrations and government agencies, scientific societies and entrepreneurs. Thank you.